All right, Star Citizen discusses the steps needed to add salvage gameplay, and I am going to put a link in a card where you can talk, where you can look at how the community and I, the fam and I, talked about salvage in a lot of different functions, as far as the occupation being, like occupations in general, how salvage was a topic that Dan was talking about from Cloud Imperium, which I love. Dan, he's a cool dude, and he was talking about all the subsystems involved with salvage, the tiers that are going to be implemented, or the steps to salvage. We can see here that it will involve 4 different pillars: hull scraping, siphoning valuable things like fuel, oxygen, or even data. We talked about this on that stream, on that highlight. Again, I will link that. It was a good time. It was like 30-minute video that I put on YouTube, and we really had some pretty deep talks on it. Removing components like coolers or power plants, the maw, which literally involves crunching up the remaining ship's exoskeleton for disposal. So the opposite of the Crucible's arms, where the Crucible is like dragging ships in and using them to repair, the Vulture's arms will crush and destroy. And as a kid, I was in a demolition crew, and I'll tell you, there is no more exhausting and satisfying job than to work on a demo crew. You got to work with large pieces of destructive equipment, sludge hammers, explosives, jackhammers, anything that destroyed is what you worked with on a demo crew. And I'll tell you, some of the best times of my life as a kid, I came home exhausted, best shape of my life. And so I'm really looking forward to salvage. But the bigger discussion that I saw from posting that highlight was people being upset that the salvaging is not going to happen anytime soon. I'm not quite sure, really, if that's a valid concern. I mean, let's just say this. During the highlight, I was upset that they did, in fact, say they were theory crafting it now. It should have been something that they were theory crafting a while back. It really should have been, like a year or so ago. So salvaging does sound like it's going to be pushed to end of year or into next year. Some people were like, I can't wait to salvage 3 years from now. It's not going to be like that. Cloud Imperium knows better to put this kind of gameplay in the game, because they understand that people want to play as a salvaging occupation, as a salvager. They get it. They understand it. So I don't think it's going to be something that's like hugely delayed. But I am quite upset that they didn't really do much of the work involved. They're theory crafting it out now. They're milling about and running and saying, okay, what are the slices to salvaging? Like, how are we going to, and we see here, there are 4 different levels in which you're going to salvage. I think it's going to be a very lucrative business, and I look forward to the commodities that will come from the salvage. And I look forward to exactly how salvage is going to be used. I would love to be able to salvage parts and put them in other ships. I would love that type of detail. More theory crafting has to be done in regards to salvage, but the base gameplay is going to be hull scraping, siphoning valuable things like fuel and oxygen, which will be more prevalent in the game the longer they can. The more they push out gameplay that keeps us in space, the more valuable things like oxygen and fuel are going to be. The longer you are out in space and you're logging out in your bed in space and you're able to log back into space, the more viable, the more value fuel and oxygen are going to be. And so these are, again, things that we talked about into a prior highlight. Execute says DG wants a wrecking ball ship. Like, I would like the Vulture on steroids, where it's just like 2 giant arms this way, 2 giant arms this way, and just like just I want like a monster destroyer. I want something that looks like it's out of like the Dark Crystal, like the Skeksis. Like, I just want something that's disgusting and vicious and animal looking out there. Even more so than the Vulture. I just want just this demolition beast. Harpoons everywhere, just shooting out into other ships and dragging them back and just tearing them apart into pieces. That's what I want. That's what I want. Redbeard says it's not a concern, just an observation. No. I understand. He's talking about as far as like salvaging being something being put out on the back burner. I think some people, though, if you saw my comments, Red Bear, on that particular video, went way over the top. You know, we're really, really angry. You know, like if you saw some of the comments I read, that I read, if you saw some of the comments that I read, Red Bear, you would see that like it is very justified that I talk about how some of these concerns are a little overblown. Oh, like a lot overblown. But I am disappointed that the theory crafting is just happening right now. That is fact. That is fact. This is something that should have been much farther along, and this should have been talked about at least a year ago, at least. So I understand the frustration. I understand the frustration.